Today we're going to be learning about allusion and onomatopoeia. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and open up our class, go into our module. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be looking at allusion and onomatopoeia, and that's what we have inside of our week at a glance for today. So let's go on back to our module. And the first thing we're going to do before I even open up the notes is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to watch this video on allusion.
As kids, most of us grew up watching, and let's face it, rewatching, our favorite Disney movies. Whether you loved the princesses, the animals, the heroes, or the Pixar films, we can all agree these movies are great because they're full of heart, magic, and illusions. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start over. Hold on, way too far. How about this? Watch these clips from popular Disney movies to see what they have in common.
But soft, what light through yonder window breaks?
Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
I can take off my head to recite Shakespearean quotations.
I've started talking to the pictures on the walls. Hang in there, Joan.
Caesar salad. Et tu bouteille? Nope.
Each of these clips is an example of allusion. But what is allusion, you ask? Well, allusion is a brief and indirect reference to something with historical, cultural, literary, or political significance. We encounter allusion every single day in the books we read and the TV shows or movies that we watch. So looking at one of our previous examples more closely, when Jack Skellington sings about quoting Shakespeare while holding his skull, he is, more specifically, referencing this famous scene from Hamlet. In literature, some of the more common sources writers allude to are mythology, religion, literature, especially Shakespeare, and pop culture. So at this point, you might be asking yourself,
Why should I worry? Why should I care?
so we know what allusions are, but why do we use them? Why is it important to know about them? Whenever someone makes an allusion, they invoke the ideas and emotions associated with the original source. It gets a point across in a more creative way that can often take less time than explaining the whole idea from scratch. So for example, if someone were to say, "I'm surprised his nose didn't grow like Pinocchio's," you understand what the speaker really means if you are familiar with the story of Pinocchio. His nose only grows when he lies, and so the subject of the sentence must also be lying. Our understanding is enhanced by the allusion. Another common way authors use allusion is when naming their characters. A really great example of this is in Disney's The Aristocats. The three kittens are not just cute and fluffy, they are named after famous figures from French history. The musical Black Kitten, Berlioz, is named after the famous French composer Hector Berlioz. The autistic ginger kitten, Toulouse, is named after the famous French artist Toulouse-Lautrec. And finally, the fancy white kitten, Marie, is named after France's most famous queen, Marie Antoinette. The filmmakers want us to associate the kittens with the historical and cultural figures they're named after. So these allusions help us to understand each kitten's personality and talents a little better. So, what if you don't know anything about French history? What if you have no idea what an allusion is referencing? What if you just don't get it? Well, the word allusion comes from the Latin word for to play with or jest. Think of illusion as an inside joke. If you understand, great. If you don't, it's not a big deal. Disney movies are full of illusions that went over your head as a kid. You didn't enjoy these movies any less just because you didn't understand the reference. Think about illusions in literature the same way. If you think an author is making an illusion you don't understand, look it up. And if you don't notice it at all, you can still understand the work without it. Just keep an eye out and you'll be fine.
Okay, so like I said yesterday and probably last week when we went over illusion just a little bit, it can be the hardest one to identify. And that's not because it's hard, but it's because if you don't have the background knowledge to identify it, then you're not even going to see that it's there. Um, so let's go ahead and move on. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and open up our notes. So I want you to open up either the PowerPoint version or the Google version, whichever one you were working in yesterday. And we're going to go straight to the blue section. I'm going to go ahead and open this up on my desktop because I have it there. Okay, so illusion. Illusion has the dog with the Santa hat underneath. All right, let's go ahead and put down the definition. So we went over it, but it helps to do it in a different way too. So here we go. An allusion is a reference to a person, place, or event from literature, sports, history, movies, or the arts. Place or event from literature, sports, history, movies, or the arts. And then some tips to help you identify them. So the first one is it helps the author to explain or describe and the reader to visualize or imagine. The next tip is the reader must have prior knowledge of what is being referenced to get or understand the allusion. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. So we're going to do, like we do every day, we're going to do one example and one non-example. So an example would be Heather's mysterious smile rivaled the Mona Lisa. Okay, so let me show you. You've probably seen the painting if you don't know the name of it, but let me show you what they're talking about. This is the Mona Lisa. So what they're saying is her Heather's smile was almost as nice as the Mona Lisa. I don't actually think that Mona Lisa has a wonderful smile, but that's what the illusion is referencing. And the Mona Lisa actually looks like this. It's a rather small painting, and it's behind glass inside of a very famous art museum in Paris called the Louvre. So when you see them, like when you see the pictures like this, at least I did, I assumed it was actually really big, but it's actually pretty small. This is a great representation. And so right here, it's pointing at her smile. Um, and going back to our notes, remember when it's referencing even art, then it is an illusion, excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and explain that out. So picturing the Mona Lisa helps the reader visualize Heather's smile. And I would think maybe it's not a very good smile, or it's sneaky, and that's why they said mysterious. All right, and then a non-example would be something like the Mona Lisa can be viewed in Paris. And here's the problem with that. This sentence just states a fact about the painting, but it doesn't use it in order to explain or compare to anything. So it's just a regular sentence. It's not figurative language at all. So let's go ahead and write that in here. This sentence states a fact about a painting, but doesn't use it to explain or compare. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to write your own sentence containing an illusion. And I want you to use this dog as, this picture of the dog as your inspiration. So this one's going to be pretty simple because he's wearing a Santa hat. So if you write a sentence about the dog and something having to do with Santa, then you are creating an allusion to what we already know about Santa Claus. And I'm not going to do it for you because I want to see what you come up with. So let me zoom out just a second and give you a chance to take a screenshot if you need it. All right, let's go on to your practice part. So again, allusion is a brief reference to a person, place, thing, or idea of literary, cultural, artistic, political, or historical significance. And some more examples are, please place your John Hancock on the dotted line. John Hancock is another way that we usually would say your signature. And the reason we say that is because John Hancock signed the Declaration of Independence. Another example is, I don't know if this store carries shoes in your size, Sasquatch. And Sasquatch would be like referring to what's it called, Bigfoot. And so Bigfoot would have like giant feet, right? So this person is basically telling the other person that they've got huge feet. And by calling them Sasquatch, they're making a reference to Sasquatch. So let's go ahead and look at the directions. For each sentence, identify what is being alluded to and explain the allusion. If you're not sure, let me look through here. You should know all of them. If you don't, and there's a word in there you're not sure about, then I want you to look it up because you should be able to find where the allusions are in these. So let's look at the example. I was surprised his nose was not growing like Pinocchio's. So obviously, we know who Pinocchio is, right? So in this particular one, if I was highlighting, I would highlight Pinocchio. The allusion is Pinocchio. And then again, I was surprised his nose wasn't growing. So they're basically saying like the guy was lying so much that his nose should have grown like Pinocchio's. And then another way to explain it is Pinocchio's nose grew whenever he told a lie, so the person had caught him in a lie. Either way is fine. And let's go ahead and look at the second one. In the forest at night, the soldiers felt as if they were journeying through Hades. Okay, what we're going to do is the only thing in here that maybe you wouldn't know is this word right here, Hades. So let's go ahead and look up what Hades is. I know right off the top of my head that Hades is is part of Greek mythology. So we've got some pictures here. Let's go ahead and look up what Hades is. So Hades in the ancient Greek religion and myth is the god of the dead and the king of the underworld. So what they're referring to is the underworld, or like hell basically. So let's go back to here. Again, in the forest at night, the soldiers felt as if they were journeying through Hades. Uh, Maybe it would be a better sentence if it said journeying through Hades' lair or something like that. Because you can't go through Hades, you can go through the underworld. So the illusion would be Hades. And then the explanation is the soldiers felt like they were going through hell. And then you would explain it by saying Hades is the god of the underworld in Greek mythology. All right, and then this doesn't exactly fit, so I'll just make it a little bit smaller and we'll be good to go. All right, and you can move that up a little bit too. Okay, so you kind of want to explain out what the illusion is and how you can translate the sentence once you know, okay? I see another one in the very next one that has to do with Greek mythology, which is fine. Romeo, you should know who that is. Again, looking through these, you should know what all of them are. If you don't, ask someone or look it up just like I did with Hades, because that wasn't a great illusion sample, and it only made sense when we looked up who Hades was, right? Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So the next thing we're going to work on is onomatopoeia. And before we take our notes, I'm going to go ahead and play the video. And this is so cute. So I hope you guys like it too.
Onomatopoeia is the use of a word to describe or imitate a natural sound, or the sound made by an object or an action. Let's check out some examples of onomatopoeia in TV and movies.
Onomatopoeia? And that is a word. Why would you ever say that? Why wouldn't you say it? Onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia. All I want to be is an onomatopoeia.
I see you like to chew. Maybe you should chew on my fist!
The warrior said nothing, for his mouth was full. Then he swallowed. And then he spoke. Enough talk. Let's fight. Shakabui! It mattered not how many foes he faced. They were no match for his bodacity.
Many comic books may use onomatopoeia to emphasize a certain sound. Take, for instance, this scene from the 1960s Batman series, which was based directly off of the comic book.
Curtains!
Okay, so right now when we were just watching that 1960s, when we were watching that 1960s clip from Batman, every time a word pops up on the screen, boom, pow, kaboo, kaplow, whatever they are, those are all onomatopoeias, okay? So just finish watching it for a sec. Kapow. All right, let's go back to our notes. So I would totally remember what onomatopoeia is because Tigger's singing onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia. All right, so an onomatopoeia, let's go ahead and write down the definition. And the definition is words whose sounds suggest their meaning. So it can still be something like like the noises that animals make, or even chew kind of, or crunch, any of those that's basically mimicking the noise that it actually is, that is onomatopoeia. So let's go ahead and put down our tips. And the first one is animal noises such as moo, meow, hiss, quack, oink, and tweet. And then the next tip is sometimes the sentence is exclamatory, meaning it has an exclamation point, and ends with an exclamation mark, which is exactly what I just said. All right, so let's look at some examples. So first we're going to do our regular examples. And one would be something like, the door slowly creaked open and then slammed shut. All right, so with this particular sentence, both creak and slam imitate sounds. And those are your onomatopoeia. So I'm going to go ahead and just italicize these. And then a bad example or a non-example would be something like, hello, I shouted into an empty house. And the problem with this one is that hello is dialogue, and not a natural noise or a sound. I don't know why PowerPoint, mine is like separating out words like that. There's nothing wrong with dialogue. All right. And then I gave you guys this picture down here, and you can use any of them. So you've got a bunny, a cat, a dog, I don't know what this thing is, and a parrot. I don't care if you use all of them or just one of them, but you guys are going to create your own onomatopoeia sentence with this picture somehow. Okay, I'm going to zoom out for just a second so you can take a screenshot if needed. All right, let's go ahead and look at your onomatopoeia practice. Okay, so just as a reminder, onomatopoeia is the use of words that imitate sounds associated with the objects or actions to which they refer. And some more examples would be like, the cat meowed loudly, the bacon sizzled, the curtains rustled, the bee buzzed around my ear, the car screeched to a halt. So the words right here are meow, sizzled, rustled, buzzed, screeched, all onomatopoeia. All right, so our directions for our first section say underline the underline the onomatopoeia in the following song and poem. You can underline it or you can highlight it, and I'm just gonna do a couple of them just to remind you guys how to do that. So in draw, I like highlighting better than underlining, so I would click on my highlighter. It doesn't matter what color you're using, and then you would just start highlighting. So dog goes wolf, that's one. and then there's one in like every line. So you just have to make sure that you either underline it or highlight it. And then over here in Onomatopoeia by Eve Marion, the rusty spigot sputters, utters a sputter, spatters a smattering of drops, gashes wider, splash, splatters, scatters, spurts, finally stops sputtering, and splash, gushes, rushes, splashes, clear water dashes. Again, tons of them in here, but the first one I see would be here, sputters. And you need to go through and highlight or underline all of the rest of them. And then down here, use the list of onomatopoeic words to create 2 original and descriptive sentences. And this one you're all on your own. Pretty simple, but you do need to use these words in here. And then remember, like you can see right now as I'm moving my cursor around, it is still pink because it's still in highlighter mode. And if you need to take it out of highlighter mode, you just click draw again. And you notice that now I have an arrow and I'm back in the cursor business. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always send me an inbox message.